Hello, my name is Dr. Christian Heim, consultant psychiatrist living for preventative mental health, love and compassion. And right here and now, I want to give you 5 tips for isolating couples. Oh my gosh, we're in the middle of a viral crisis and we're going to see each other 24/7 for weeks, maybe longer. How are we going to get through? Well, the reason I want to give you 5 practical tips is so that your relationship actually becomes stronger through this viral crisis, so that you don't end up tearing each other apart, but you actually get to appreciate what a beautiful person you actually first fell in love with and are living with now. All right, so what's the background to this? The background to this is we're in the midst of a coronavirus crisis, and people are living together in close proximity that weren't used to spending so much time together. And that does a few things, and it can do good things. In the Wohan province in China, however, it did a few not so good things. China is a country that has almost 10 million marriages every year, but 4 million divorces. And they found in the Wuhan province, there was a spike in divorces after the lockdown period. I don't want that to happen to you, because your relationship is actually your greatest asset. But we're thrown in this situation, and how are we going to keep it together? Because a crisis like this does 2 things. First of all, it makes us all fearful, because we are creatures that are self-protective. We go into self-preservation mode, which means that our normal selfishness actually becomes more of a problem. And that takes its toll on a relationship, because you know that if you want to be part of a good relationship, you're battling your selfishness all the time. And that's all of us. But the second thing that happens in a crisis like this is we're thrown out of our normal habits and routines. We're into new habits, new routines. And you know what? Changing habits is not that easy. So somebody who wants you to change your habits, the person right next to you, and sees that you're not doing that, interprets that as, you don't really care for me. All right, so that's the problem. But relax. I'm here to give you 5 practical tips that will actually help your relationship. Remember, the person that you are living with in close proximity is somebody that you adored and fell in love with at some stage and found some happiness with. So we're going to look at how we can reclaim some of that and even enhance it during this crisis. Practical tip number 1, talk. Talk to each other with honesty and gentleness. If you're talking, even if you're out of harmony, you are still in relationship. Now, the thing is that if you can talk with honesty, then the other person knows where they stand. They know you, they know that you are there and that you are being real and that you're not being fake. Honesty can hurt sometimes, which is why we need the other bit, gentleness. Be gentle with each other. You don't just have a person next to you. You have a fragile, emotional human being that wants to be loved and share love with you. So be gentle. Here's the thing though, people who are good at the honesty sometimes are not gentle with the way they put things through. Yeah, that's been my experience in my relationship, all right? And other people are good at being gentle, but they're not always honest. So you may find that you've got to work on one of these rather than another. And what I found when I do couples therapy is that we normally spend time with one person who needs a bit of encouragement to be honest, and another person who needs a bit of encouragement to be gentle. But here's the thing, if you can talk to each other with honesty and gentleness, then you're doing what you can to be a team, to play you and me against the world, to be able to say, you can count on me, and together we'll get through this stronger. Now, if you switch off here, fair enough, you've got something else to do. That's the most important bit, and I'll come back to that, but I want to give you 4 more. Tip number 2 is divvy up the chores fairly. Now, some people are used to having their workplace as the place where they work, and then they come home and they flop down and relax. And when you're at home 24/7, you may find that it's one of you that are used to doing most of the chores, and the other person just feels that they can flop down and relax. Well, you're going to have to divvy up the chores fairly, which means that you'll have to get over some of your own natural selfishness. And remember that a crisis like this has a tendency to bring out the selfishness in all of us. So if you can, just look at that side of you and sort of say, yeah, maybe I can change just a little bit. And remember, a crisis also can make it hard for us to change our habits. And to help at home means that you've got to change your habit. And look, if you can, just put in a little bit of effort to change your habits. Because after all, you're there with the other person. And the way to do it is sit down and talk. Talk with gentleness and talk with honesty about divvying up chores so that together you can be a team. You can have some of you and me against the world. You can count on me, and together we'll get through that. Just a little suggestion. Those words that I just used there, let's say if you like you and me against the world. Okay, I like that one. Okay, well, write it down on a Post-it note and then stick it somewhere that you will see it to remind yourself that you actually want to play you and me against the world. Or in the morning, if you've had a little argument the night before, it's time to say, you know what? I just want to let you know that you can count on me, and together we're going to get through this. Okay, that's a great start to the day. But let me just invite you into tip number 3. Handling conflict. Who likes conflict? No, none of us do. And that's why, generally speaking, we don't handle conflict terribly well. And we tend to fall into a camp of avoiding conflict or arguing. And neither actually feels good. The thing is, however, we're getting more evidence to show that if you are a couple that argue, you have got a better chance of staying together than people who avoid conflict and give each other the silent treatment. And by that criteria, Caroline and I are going to be together a long time, all right? Because, yeah, we tend to argue. But let me tell you what an argument isn't. An argument is not physical abuse. It is not emotional manipulation. An argument is not verbal abuse. All of those things are abuse. An argument, if you like, well, the way I look at it is that an argument is an emotional conversation. A conversation is a chance to share thoughts and ideas with words. Whereas an argument is a chance to share emotions with words, with gestures, with looks and tones of voice, with expressions, and sometimes with flying dishes. No, I didn't say that. I didn't. Okay, so we'll take that last bit out. It'll be edited out. You won't see it. An argument can be constructive because it gives you a chance to find out about the other person, find out what's important to them, dig deeper into their emotional life, find out what their priorities are, and to grow closer. It comes as a shock to all of us that the person next to us does not do life the way that we do it. They do it differently. They have a different brain. And when we argue, this is what's actually happening. But we can use that to grow deeper, to get to know each other more, okay? But again, when you argue, you have to give this idea that we're a team, that no matter what happens in this argument, we can count on each other. We're here to grow stronger together. It's actually you and me against the world, not against each other. So the problem is cold avoidance or really hurtful, unfair arguing. But if you can learn how to argue fairly and respectfully, you can actually grow closer, all right? It can put a bit of spice in your relationship, and it can actually increase the caring. And it does feel good when you make up, all right? So, to argue well, argue honestly, and if you can, argue gently. And I know that's difficult because arguments are emotive. But when you can do that, then it'll be you and me against the world. You can count on me. Together we will get through this. But let me get to tip number 4. And that is, notice things and talk before arguing. What do I mean by that? Okay, you've got to notice each other's emotions. You've got to check each other's emotions. Sometimes you'll ask, are you okay? And the other person will go, yeah, but you know they're not. You sort of go, okay, what is it? Do we need to talk about it now? Can we talk about it later? And they'll go, no, I'm fine. And you know that they're being avoidant. That's all right, because you will get back to it at a time when you can talk about it. What you're looking for is anger or resentment in yourself or in your partner, and you're looking for avoidance, things that you're not saying that you need to say, and you're looking for avoidance in your partner as well. Okay? Now, there are a few things that, quite frankly, are difficult for a lot of people to talk about. Finances, sex, bad habits, all right? But if you can be honest and gentle and notice these things before they come to an argument and talk about them, then you'll be doing all that you can to be together as a team, play you and me against the world, say you can count on me, and together we will get through this. All right, how are you doing? Hopefully you're feeling a bit more confident, because I actually want your relationship to be better through all of this. But I'm going to give you the last tip, tip number 5. Know each other's personality. Now, I don't mean you've got to go onto the internet and do a personality inventory and all that sort of stuff. Mind you, some people find that quite helpful, okay? But you probably already know something about the other person. You know whether they're an introvert or an extrovert. And that depends on whether they get energy by themselves or from being with people. You know if somebody tends to be direct in their expression or indirect in their expression. Okay? You know your partner's insecurities and vulnerabilities. That's a privilege to know those things, because most of us keep our insecurities hidden. So be very gentle with those. You know if your partner tends to be organized and likes planning things, or likes to do things spontaneously and spur of the moment sort of stuff. You also know if your partner tends towards thinking or feeling as a mode of expression. And as a very general rule, and this is based on the science of what we know about the brain, men tend towards problem solving and women tend towards relationship. So that means that men tend towards thinking and men and women tend towards feeling. This is a very subtle difference, and it's got nothing to do with intelligence, which is the same, but it's just a little difference. Which brings me to the last one. You will find that one of you may tend towards silence or be a person of few words, and somebody might be very talkative. And that can be difficult to handle sometimes because there's a clash there and it's not quite resolvable. So, what do you do with these differences? You talk about them. You talk about them with honesty, and honesty has to do with I statements. What I feel is, what I need from you, the way I see things is. And gentleness. When you talk with gentleness, this brings about you statements. Is that okay with you? What do you feel about this? What would you like to see happen? What can I do to help you? These gentle you statements show caring. And a little formula that I want you to have is, if you've got the I statements of honesty and the you statements of gentleness, then I plus you equals we. And that's what we're looking for, because it's you and me against the world. You and me are a team. You can count on me. Together, you and me, we're going to get through this. This has been Dr. Christian Heim, wishing you a very happy relationship during these troubled times, okay? Make it stronger, because your relationship is your greatest asset. See you next time.